Namaste, namaskaram. The Montauk Trial, Chapter 3. In February of 1993, Preston and Duncan took a trip to Montauk. Preston had already completed the videotaping what is now known as the Montauk Tour, the only available footage of the buildings that comprise the inner part of Camp Hero. On this particular outing, Preston parked his van in a large flat area that is just north of the main entrance to Camp Hero. To the immediate east of the flat area is the base housing. These are homes that formerly belonged to the military stationed at Camp Hero and are now owned by individuals. Preston, Duncan, and a third person went to a bunker that is outside the inner fence. On their return, they were outside the fence and walking back to the car when they were confronted by two officers who were state park policemen. The policeman ticketed Preston and his friends, but only after consulting with a man who was dressed as a civilian. Preston explained that he wasn't on the base itself and that he wasn't doing anything illegal. One of the officers said something to the effect that they would harass anyone who came nearby. As the discussion ensued, Preston turned his video camera on and let it dangle from his neck. Plenty of audio was recorded that could possibly be used later in court to fight the tickets. In most cases, it seems that people would pay the sum of $50 and be done with these tickets. Preston, Duncan, and their friend decided to fight them. It was a matter of principle, not time and money. Further, it might establish what the truth is behind the ownership of the Montauk base. On May 19, 1993, there was a hearing in East Hampton Justice Court, Suffolk County. The docket numbers were 93-4-345, 93-4-346, and 93-4-347. The judge was Honorable James R. Ketchum. The prosecuting attorney was Michael Brown, Esquire, Assistant District Attorney, and the court reporter was Alina McClash. During the hearing, Mr. Brown indicated that all three defendants were charged with the same crime, trespassing. He also let the judge know that the defendants would like a trial to sort the matter out. Preston explained that he had earlier gone into the inner portion of the base to take footage for his videotape. He also said that he had gotten two different statements from the State Park Commission about what area is closed. A State Park police officer had told him to stay outside the fence that says that the area is closed. Another lady in the Hither Hills State Park office said that as long as they stayed outside of the area that said no trespassing, that would be fine. Both of these statements differed from the policeman who ticketed them. Judge Ketchum said he wanted to clear the matter up because other cases might come up. He also said that he used to fish in that area but wasn't up to the date on the latest circumstances. Preston wanted a clear definition of where you can go and where you can't go. In fact, he was very eager to have the State Park Commission draw up a map. The reason being that Preston had heard from a lawyer friend about a law in New York that requires state park land to be available to the public. If 1/3 or more of the land is not available for public use, then the facility loses all its state funding. Preston was anticipating that the State Park Commission might hang itself. He had also done his own estimates and figured that the restricted area is definitely more than 1/3 of the entire park area. It looked like trouble. The judge was primarily concerned that proper postings be done so as to adequately tell people where not to go. It was apparently outside the bounds of the court to order the state to draw up demarcation lines. Judge Ketchum said he would have the district attorney bring the state trooper who ticketed them to the court, and a trial would be held to determine their innocence or guilt. On June 16, 1993, a trial was held in East Hampton Justice Court. The docket numbers and officers of the court were the same as mentioned before. I could not attend the trial as a friend had set it up for me to attend a Moody Blues concert and give Justin Hayward a copy of the Montauk Project. I received word later that he enjoyed it and that the next album of the group would be called Time Traveler. Instead, I asked my friend Mike Nichols to attend on my behalf. He would be my eyes and ears. The defendants showed up early in the day for their trial. Not surprisingly, all other matters before the court were tried first. This was an apparent attempt to isolate the case so that other people would not witness it. I say apparent attempt because everyone eventually left the courtroom except for Mike Nichols. He was going to stay and watch the trial. According to Mike, the prosecuting attorney approached him and asked him to leave. Mike told him that it was a public trial and he had every right to be there. He was not bothered after that. For purposes of expediency, Preston represented the other defendants and did virtually all the talking. In his opening statement, the assistant district attorney charged the defendants with violating section 375.1, subdivision H of the Park and Recreation Law of New York State, and that the individuals entered or remained upon a property called a structure during the period, seasonal or indefinite, wherein this property or structure was designated by a sign or an employee of the office. According to Mr. Brown, these allegations occurred within the town of East Hampton, County of Suffolk, State of New York. It is very important to note here that as a legal precedent, the court acknowledged that the property in question comes under the Park and Recreation Law of New York State. Whether New York State actually owned the property was certainly not being disputed by the court or the prosecution. Preston's opening statement, also representing the other defendants, began with his encounter with the policeman and lady at Hither Hill State Park. These are the same ones mentioned earlier who said he should stay out of the fence that's inside. This fence has red and white signs posted on it indicating the park area is closed to the public. Based upon this information, he believed that if he was anywhere outside of the fence, that he was within the rules. He stated that he was wandering around the fire department bunker outside the fence when he was noticed by people who claimed to be state workers on the inside. They asked Preston and his friends what they were doing and were told it was a video shoot. The workers didn't bother them. There was no mention that they should leave. It was then established that the issue before the court was whether or not the defendants were inside the fence with the posted sign. The prosecution then called Officer Roland Walker to the witness stand. He said that he was employed by the New York State Park Police and had been a policeman for 9 years, 7 of them at Montauk. Officer Walker was also stated that he went through the New York State Park Police Academy and had training in hazmat, radar, EVOC, and paperwork. Preston Nichols says there is a discrepancy in the court transcripts. He remembers Officer Walker stating that he was trained in radar while serving in the U.S. Air Force. If this is true, it is very suspicious and a very convenient omission from the court records. Asked to describe the signs posted at the base, Officer Walker said, "They are about 3 feet by 3 feet and they say property of state of New York, closed to the public." Officer Walker testified that on February 5, 1993, he had been called by Donald Balcuns in reference to intruders in the state park. He then went to the entrance of the park and waited for them to return to their car. The officer acknowledged that they were not inside the fence when he saw them. He also stated that he issued summonses to the defendants. This was based on a witness, Donald Balcuns, stating they were inside the area. Preston concluded his questioning of Officer Walker by asking if he saw any of the defendants within the fence. The answer was no. Donald Balcuns was then called to the stand by the prosecution. He stated that he lives at Camp Hero, Montauk, New York. He lives in the housing tract just north of the base, and that he is employed by the state of New York at Camp Hero as a master equipment mechanic. Balcuns testified that the base was a military installation at one time that was fenced on the outer boundaries. On the interior at another time, the 773rd Radar Squad was commissioned there, which had an interior fence. He clearly acknowledged that there are 2 fences on the grounds. The prosecution asked Balcuns what happened at February 5, 1993 at approximately 4:45 p.m. He stated that he had been radioed by another employee that we had seen some subjects in Camp Hero. Balcuns investigated and saw the 3 defendants. He then radioed the trooper. As an aside, we are curious as to why the employee radioed Balcuns first and not the trooper. Does he also have a double as a security officer? And why would state park workers even care if someone was outside the inner fence? Balcuns clearly testified that the defendants were outside of the 773rd Radar Squad fence, but were inside the outer fence, which encloses the Camp Hero facility. He said that he told the defendants it was a restricted area. They told him they were outside the fence, and he radioed the park police. As the trial proceeded, there was much discussion about the inner and outer fences. No one disputed that the defendants were within the confines of the outer fence and outside the confines of the inner fence. Balcuns did say that the area within the outer fence was restricted. The prosecution seemed to be pinning their hopes on that point alone. Preston asked Balcuns if there were any signs posted on the outer fence. He answered that there are no new signs, just old signs from the military installation. The sign says U.S. government restricted area. Preston believes that this is a major telltale. Balcuns says the outer fence should not be penetrated, yet the only signs are old Fed signs. In Preston's opinion, this indicates that there is still a federal presence on the base. He believes Balcuns was giving a signal. None of this was addressed in court. Judge Ketchum dismissed the case because there was not sufficient or reasonable notice that the defendants were not allowed to go where they were seen. He also commented that the military signs are not state park limitation signs. The judge also said that if you go into the interior, you have to have permission or permits. At the conclusion, Preston asked for a court order for the State Park Commission to define exactly what area is closed officially. The judge said he couldn't give that kind of order. He even said that he wished he had the kind of power and authority to give that. Officer Walker said he would look into the matter. After all this commotion, a few signs were posted at the end of Old Montauk Highway at the west access to Camp Hero. They were just no parking signs. To this day, I have not seen state park signs forbidding entry to the outer perimeter of the fence. Judging by the report that the prosecuting attorney asked my friend to leave the courtroom, this entire matter seems to be a very sensitive issue. In any event, Preston and his friends had won the case. More significantly, the court recognized that Camp Hero was a New York State Park facility. If this is so, why did the police seem helpless when the surfer we encountered had an unpleasant confrontation with military personnel who were disturbing the peace in the middle of the night? And why was the military man he encountered so unfriendly? And what in the world was a private corporation, Cardion, doing on state park land? John Zacher had said it was private property. I decided to research the ownership of Camp Hero. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, stay tuned. That was chapter 3 of Return to Montauk, the Pyramids of Montauk. We will be journeying forth into chapter 4 here shortly. It is now intermission time. Enjoy your refreshments. Namaste, namaskaram.